2016. But I also think there are Americans who are engaged in this kind of propaganda. And whether they should be civilly or even in some cases criminally charged is something that would be a better deterrence because.
Yo, welcome to Simply Bitcoin Live, your number one source for the peaceful Bitcoin revolution. Cover breaking news, culture, dramatic warfare. We'll be your guide through the separation of money and state, streaming live from the unconfiscatable real world suite here at Gold Spike in Las Vegas, Nevada, courtesy of Tone Vase. Anyways, starting off the cold opening with Hillary Clinton basically saying that any narrative, any information that is not officially approved is dangerous propaganda, and that Americans should be locked up for that. I mean, that contradicts completely what the First Amendment is all about. I mean, we are heading into very dangerous territory where government officials, very powerful government officials, including Kamala Harris, are saying the things along the lines of like, look, like, you know, Elon Musk has too much power because of what because he controls Twitter. You know, it's a very slippery slope when government officials get into discussions about speech. And we've seen this play out throughout history over the last 100 years or so. It never ends well. Freedom of speech isn't perfect, but I would say that it's a much better alternative than a group of very powerful bureaucrats getting to decide what speech is okay and what speech is not okay. And then this brings me to the idea of central bank digital currencies. If they're not okay with you transacting information freely, what makes you think they're going to be okay with you transacting money freely? So I think freedom of speech is the front line for the disintermediation of money and state. It is the disintermediation of state and information. So I think it's very important that we continue to highlight this because it's pretty insane. And I got to say, guys, and we have a very special guest to talk about this today. This is the first election, the election of 2024, this presidential election, where depending on the candidate that gets into office that wins, it will have a impact on the regulatory environment for the Bitcoin industry in the United States. And that's something that as a, Bitcoin, podcast or content creation or media company, however you would like to call us, it's something that we have to bring up. It's something that we have to talk about, right? And what I saw over the weekend, I was kind of being a little bit hyperbolic when I said, "Oh my God, look, it's not a coincidence that the first Bitcoin presidential candidate was almost assassinated twice." And I said that half jokingly, but the responses surprised me a lot because a lot of people were basically saying like, "Oh, look, Trump's not pro Bitcoin, Trump's pro crypto," and my responses were like, "So what's the alternative exactly?" It's very clear to me, especially after RFK has, gone out of the race. We have a pro-Bitcoin candidate / anti-CBDC candidate versus a anti-Bitcoin candidate / pro-CBDC candidate. So from my perspective, is it perfect? No. But if you use a little bit of common sense, it's very easy to decide who you should put your support behind, specifically if you're a Bitcoiner or if you're a Bitcoin business owner in the United States. Anyways, no more delay. I do want to bring up Mcshane onto the stage. Mcshane is the director of programming for the Bitcoin conference, man. And you guys have done an incredible job. Bitcoin 2024 was, I would say, on par with Bitcoin 2021 in terms of historical milestones. Bitcoin 2021, of course, was when Nayib Bukele announced making Bitcoin legal tender in El Salvador. But you guys got an ex-president, potentially a future president, to speak at the Bitcoin conference. And not to mention RFK's speech. Holy cow. He sounded like a maxi, man. It was insane. It was crazy. So really, really happy to have Mcshane on the show today. How you doing, man?
I'm doing well, man. Good morning. It's a beautiful day. Love to see this price action. Despite our political, climate right now, I'm just loving life, man. Loving being a Bitcoiner.
Absolutely. I think once you reach Bitcoin Zen, you have Bitcoin in self-custody. You feel protected. You're like, look, no matter what is going on in crazy clown world, fiat world, life is getting progressively cheaper for me because I'm on a better unit of account. Absolutely. I want to bring up my legendary co-host who's always optimistic, streaming live from Dallas, Texas. How you doing, Opti?
I am doing wonderful. I am having a little bit of FOMO because I'm not in Vegas right now. But hey, Nika's got to keep me safe and away from the parties. So I get how it is. But on that note, Nika drinking a root beer at 9 a.m. in the morning in Las Vegas. Love to see it. Love to see it.
When in Vegas. I mean, speaking of Vegas, bro, I mean, there's going to be quite an event coming up next year, early next year in Vegas.
And I'll be at that one.
Yes, you'll definitely be at that one.
May 27th through 29th, Bitcoin 2025. I don't know how we're going to outdo ourselves from last year, but I promise you that we will.
Let's go.
I totally believe it. Anyways, Opti, what are you going to talk about during the culture?
Yeah. Well, before I get into the culture, I do kind of want to comment on that cold open we saw in the morning, and I'm really going to troll it out because if Hillary does have her way, I am convinced that not only us, but every other Bitcoin podcaster is going to be in the gulags. So the gulags are going to be lit. I'm super excited to hang out with all my friends in the gulags because we are saying things that are very unpopular as far as the corporate press is concerned, or rather the system is concerned. So, fingers crossed that we make it. Fingers crossed that we're cool enough to make it. But yeah, in the culture, of course, we got Mcshane on today. So we're going to be talking about, of course, first and foremost, you guys got another epic event coming up in Amsterdam. So we'll cover the conferences in Amsterdam, Las Vegas, Abu Dhabi, and then depending on how much time we got, we're gonna pick Mcshane's brain on just like alternative modes of living. I know you've been off the grid. You were telling me before the show, you're like, dude, I'm completely checked out from the online narratives. So maybe we'll talk about that. And then, thoughts on the general culture, Nostr. I know you really want to chat about Metaplanet as well. So we'll try to wrap all this stuff up in a good short time sequence, or else the show will go on for like 2 hours. But yeah, we got a jam-packed show today.
Yeah, we got loads of content, so stay tuned, guys. If you guys are enjoying the show so far, it really helps with the algos if you smash the like button. Also, shout out to our audience on Rumble, on Nostr as well, zap.stream. Really love you guys. Appreciate it. We were blown away the moment we got deplatformed, and the fact that a lot of you got I would say the vast majority of you guys followed us to alternative platforms and protocols was really broke our hearts, and we really appreciate it. So we're going to continue to put a lot of emphasis and a lot of work into alternative platforms like X and Rumble, and alternative protocols like Nostr, where you can't get deplatformed, period, right? And especially in this era of censorship, I think that is incredibly important. Anyways, before we jump into the show, I do want to give a very special shout out to our lead sponsor. Of course, I'm talking about Bitcoin Well. Bitcoin Well is the best place to build your automatic self-custody Bitcoin stack. Buy real Bitcoin, enable your independence with the fastest and safest way to buy Bitcoin in Canada and the USA. It's a publicly traded company that recently expanded to all 50 US states. And by the way, if you buy Bitcoin on Bitcoin Well, you earn Bitcoin Well points, and you can use those points towards the Bitcoin Wishing Well contest. So every time you toss a coin into the Bitcoin Wishing Well, you have an opportunity to win up to 1 million Satoshis. We'll do that live for you guys right now. First person to scan the QR code on your screen right now gets the Satoshi. So we're going to do that for you guys. And bada bing, bada boom. It's 500 sats. By the way, if you use promo code SimplyBTC, again, SimplyBTC, to sign up to BitcoinWell.com today, you get 3 tosses into the Bitcoin Wishing Well. Let's hit the numbers. All right, everybody, I want to tell you guys about Stampseed. Usually when you buy yourself a hardware wallet, it comes with a piece of paper. Opti's showing the custom Simply Bitcoin Stampseed plate. It comes with a piece of paper. And what you're supposed to do is you're supposed to write down your seed words on that piece of paper. The problem is that paper is prone to water damage, fire damage. Your dog could eat it. You don't want to do that. You want to store your generational wealth properly, and that's why we recommend the Stampseed. It's a titanium seed phrase storage kit, literally proof of work your seed into hammering it physically, literally at home into a plate of titanium. And the kit comes with everything. It comes with the letter stamping tools, comes with the hammer, comes with the anvil, comes with everything you need to stamp your seed into a plate of titanium so it could stand the test of time. Head over to stampseed.com today and use promo code SIMPLY to get 15% off anything on the website. At the time of recording, the Bitcoin price is 60,820. Sats per dollar, 1,644. Block height, 861,720. Blocks to halving, 188,280. Halving estimate, March 26, 2028. Total Lightning Network capacity, 5,045 BTC. Capacity value, 307 million. Realized monetary inflation continuing to take fiat currencies to absolute school, 1.346%. Market capitalization, 1.2 trillion. And Bitcoin versus gold market cap, 6.69%. Anyways, Trump held a Spaces yesterday with some shitcoiners. I'll be honest with you. But again, I think the message that I want to hammer in home today is it's a two-party system. You really only have two choices. You have the Biden-Harris administration / campaign that has shown us over the last 3.5 years, their outlook on the industry. In the Democratic Party platform of 2024, it does not mention digital currencies or digital assets or crypto or Bitcoin one time. We know how Elizabeth Warren feels about the industry. She wants to create a monopoly for a central bank digital currency. And then if you compare and contrast that with not only what Trump said at the Bitcoin conference, but the Republican Party platform, it literally said verbatim, we'll protect the right to mine, we'll protect the right to self-custody, and we'll end the attack on the industry. It's pretty clear to me. But again, I understand some Bitcoiners. I empathize with them. I understand that, a lot of people feel that that Trump is not a pure Bitcoin maximalist, but it's not perfect, but you really only have two choices. One choice is pretty bad and one choice is much better. So here's a recap, and shout out to Sophie for taking notes. So first, they brought up the campaign promise on crypto and Bitcoin. Second, the Biden-Harris campaign will continue. This is a claim made by Trump. I believe it as well, just based on the actions that we've seen over the last couple of months. For example, when the Crypto for Harris initiative was launched, the same day, the Federal Reserve sued one of the last friendly crypto / Bitcoin banks in the United States. And don't pay attention to what they say, pay attention to what they do, right? So Trump claims Biden-Harris campaign will continue to make crypto adoption or Bitcoin adoption more difficult, but he will leave us alone and help us thrive. That's also something that he promised at the Bitcoin conference. Says that there's a learning curve that his kids understood right at the beginning, that his kids, specifically Barron Trump, is managing his wallets and has taught him. He says that the U.S. has to be number one, not only in Bitcoin / crypto, but also AI and all technology. For that to happen, we need twice the electricity we already have. We cannot be left in the dust. He says that during his administration, they become the leader in the space, and they'll do the same with crypto, AI, and mining. This is when you tie what you said. Okay, and then this is when I want to bring up my discussion that I had with Wicked, because I kind of did this like half jokingly, half serious, but the reality is that Trump has faced now 2 assassination attempts. I made the case that it's no coincidence that the first pro-Bitcoin presidential candidate has had that happen to him. But to my surprise, there was a lot of people that felt very passionate about it, specifically a well-known Bitcoiner in the community, Wicked. And he said they have a pro-Bitcoin, a pro-crypto stance that's very, very different than a pro-Bitcoin stance, and shows how little they actually understand what's really going on. My first response to that is, number one, do you remember the first year that you got into Bitcoin? Did you know the difference between Bitcoin and crypto? That's my first response. My second response, and the reason I believe it's a bad take, is it's fundamentally a two-party system. So you have a choice between a pro-Bitcoin / anti-CBDC candidate and an anti-Bitcoin / pro-CBDC candidate, and not to mention the fact that one of the candidates has already promised to free Ross. Is it perfect? No. Is it better? Absolutely. And I would say say that if you're going down the purity test route, it's basically you want a continuation of the regulatory crackdown. And then I made a meme, which Pierre Richard, NBK, and a lot of predominant Bitcoiners liked or retweeted. And I said, it's like the bell curve meme, right? At the left, it says Trump 2024. On the right, it says Trump 2024, protect self-custody, free Ross, pro-Bitcoin, anti-CBDC, right to mine, and Operation Choke Point 2.0. And then the middle of the bell curve is Trump is pro-crypto, he's not a maxi. So I'm gonna keep doubling down on that, right? It's not a perfect system. It's a two-party system. We don't have a pure Bitcoin maxi presidential candidate, but I would say it's much better than the alternative. And he's already shown good faith. And he's already shown good faith by not only including it in the official Republican presidential policy, but also, or the official Republican, Nico, wrong, third party is Bitcoin. The third party candidate is RFK, and he literally got out of the race and supported Trump. That's what I would say. And another thing that I would say as well is because I think a lot of us Bitcoiners really fundamentally believe this because we read The Sovereign Individual and we believe in the thesis that over the long term, the internet and digital and Bitcoin specifically is going to make politics irrelevant. But right now, during the transitionary period, I think politicians and the regulatory environment can have a meaningful impact in the life of Bitcoiners in that specific jurisdiction, specifically if you're a Bitcoin entrepreneur. If you're trying to build a Bitcoin business, you don't want to build it in a hostile regulatory environment, which is why you see a lot of these Lightning wallets leaving the United States. And I saw a very powerful tweet, and it was basically along the lines of, there's 3 countries that have banned Wallet of Satoshi: China, North Korea, and the United States. You don't want that. You don't want that at all, right? And I think Trump coming in, yes, he will bring a lot of altcoinery for sure, without a doubt. But at the same time, he's going to leave that alone. And he's going to allow Bitcoin to thrive. And Bitcoin doesn't need any special privileges or special advantages. It is superior money. It's going to win based on its own merit by itself. It just needs to be left alone, at least from a regulatory perspective. Now, does this mean that Bitcoin needs a politician for it to succeed? No. But I would say that, does it mean that potentially the United States could get left behind from an innovative aspect, from a regulatory aspect? 100%. And if you're a Bitcoiner living in the United States, then yeah, this election coming up in 2024 will have a meaningful impact. And I think purity tests could potentially be dangerous. Anyways, I've been on a little bit of a ramble here. I want to pass it on to Mcshane. Mcshane, you guys have done an incredible job at the Bitcoin conference, getting not only RFK, but Trump, and also members on the other side of the aisle as well. Rokana, I hope I pronounced that correctly, from the Democratic side, that have all been pro Bitcoin / crypto. So I want to get your takes on this. I'm sure you have a little bit more insight on this.
Yeah, I would say we invite members of Congress from both sides of the aisle, and they don't always show up. It's been hard to get them to show up. Kamala turned us down in the 11th hour. I don't know. For me, it's not really about these parties. I'm a big Orange Party guy. I don't, full disclosure, I don't vote at all. I don't like our system. I don't think that this experiment in pseudo representative democracies worked out well. But there are certain advantages that the United States can accrue by putting leaders in charge who understand Bitcoin on some level. And I would say, I'm also very disappointed in, the Trump campaign's choice to launch cryptocurrency. But at the same time, I think that some exposure to Bitcoin is better than none. And I still believe, everything's good for Bitcoin, and the path to Bitcoin is through altcoins. It's always been that way. That's the origin story of most people probably watching this stream. They probably dabbled. And I think they're going to get burnt real bad by this. I think, Trump has been kind of on a downstream since, the debate, launching the crypto. It's just a bad look. I think it's going to backfire, and hopefully they learn their lesson. I hope he gets, some of these people out of his ear who are encouraging this sort of I don't know. To me, it's fraud. These cryptos all make fraudulent claims, and people are going to get hurt. So I'd like to see a return to Bitcoin. I still think the alternative is a lot worse. This censorship regime of like the Democratic Party. I mean, we can't tolerate this. I don't think that would be good for Bitcoin at all. I think you'll see an exodus of Bitcoiners from the United States if Kamala gets elected.
100%. I 100% agree with that. And Opti, I mean, this is something that we've been talking about for quite a while now. We've been on the fence. We've tried to remain neutral. And I think what really was a breaking point for us was when the Samurai Wallet guys got arrested. Then I felt I got very passionate at that point. The attack on self-custody, the proposed 30% Bitcoin mining tax, the denial of Caitlin Long's federal banking charter for her bank, Custodia Bank, even though it's fully reserve bank. All those things, like, it just kind of starts to add up, and then you have to start to question yourself, like, at what point do I speak up? At what point do I make my voice heard and say, you know what, like, it's probably not a good idea that, the current administration gets another 4 years just based on how they treated the industry. And I just want to be specific, guys. Like, if Kamala came out tomorrow and, didn't say it through her subordinates, like didn't say it through the media, but it actually came out of her mouth, like, I'll protect I'll protect self-custody, I'll leave the industry alone, then I think we would change stance on Simply, because I completely agree with Mcshane. Like, this isn't red versus blue, liberal versus conservative. It's really the party of fiat versus the party of Bitcoin. But the reality is that one party in the fiat sense has played ball better, and the other party has just been extremely hostile towards the industry as a whole. So, and that's just a reality that we have to point out. Like, go ahead, Mcshane.
I was going to say, I can't stop thinking about the, Custodia Bank being denied a federal banking charter. I mean, people need to realize it's illegal in this country to run a bank with full reserves. You have to take unsecured loans from citizens, risk them on the market, and socialize your loss. That's status quo. That's the law. Insanity. And then what that tells me is that system's completely unviable. Do not trust those people with your money. Instead, learn to use Bitcoin well in self-custody and go that direction. You're gonna have a lot more prosperity than trying to mess around with these banks.
100%. I 100% agree with that. And I think it also shows, like, and I think it was like a Cameron or Tyler Winklevi, like the way that he was describing it in a tweet thread, where he's basically making the case that, like, the Federal Reserve is positioning itself on a regulatory level, on a legal level, where they have the final say to approve what bank in the United States has the ability to bank anyone that has any type of relation or interaction with the Bitcoin/crypto industry. So it's kind of like an unelected bureaucracy, because you don't elect the chairman of the Federal Reserve, is basically has a literal choke point, and they're the deciding factor of what banks are allowed to interact with the industry and what banks are not allowed to interact with the industry. And then you could also make the case that central banks have the most to lose if our industry succeeds. So it's kind of like, why would you, like, that doesn't make any sense. That's not allowing innovation, which is what originally America was based on, right? This idea of individualism, meritocracy, innovation. But it seems like it's been going away from that. Opti, we've been covering this for a couple months now. It's not surprising at this point. It's quite disappointing as a first generation American. That's how I'm interpreting it. What's your take?
Yeah, well, first off, I do want to mention that today is a very important day in regards to the Samurai case. It's their first hearing. So let's wish the best for them. And I think this is going to set a huge precedent. So hopefully we get some good news coming out of this. With that being said, on the other news, You know, I said this the other day. We were getting trolled by everyone's favorite cat in the chat, and he was saying, "Are we still single issue voters now that Trump is a shitcoiner?" And I responded with basically the same thing we just said. Well, we still have on one side one that is anti-Bitcoin, pro CBDC, and the other one that I guess now is more pro shitcoin and pro Bitcoin. So all roads are going to lead to Bitcoin adoption. Either they're going to try to fight Bitcoin, and it's going to accelerate the adoption of Bitcoin, or we get 4 more years of cover and Bitcoin gets to do its thing, and hopefully Trump actually holds up his, what he's saying, where he's going to allow the industry to prosper, because we've been saying it for a long time that America, if they want to stay in a position of power, will have to adopt Bitcoin. And it's the most sensible move right now. It's don't fight the industry. This industry is good for the people. And I think that's the most important thing right now. And as much as Trump getting into shitcoins is definitely disappointing, I remember when I got into Bitcoin, I didn't really know much about Bitcoin. So he's still in his learning curve. We can't expect him to just instantly get into Bitcoin or announce some pro-Bitcoin policies and go full maxi. But as Mcshane said, and as the meme goes, the best way to become a Bitcoin maxi is by getting burned with shitcoin. So all roads lead to Bitcoin. But even with that said, if you're still on the fence of Kamala versus Trump, like, yes, the Trump family is seemingly going down the shitcoin path, but at least they're not advocating for stealing your Bitcoin, for them fighting freedom of speech, for them taking away your firearms, introducing price controls. So there's a lot of things going on behind the scenes that, yes, I know Nika always says single issue voters, but there's a lot of things that if Kamala gets back in power is going to really affect not only Bitcoin, but the freedom movement that we are a part of. So I think it's all good for Bitcoin. And really, like I was saying in that tweet, is like, yeah, Trump may be going full shitcoin now, but hey, at least they are going pro crypto. And we all know what shitcoins really do. They just play cover. They're just smoke screens for Bitcoin. So if we have one side that's more pro crypto, then Bitcoin's going to very obviously win on that front. And, for all the free market maxis out there that are complaining about it, it's like, let Bitcoin win and, let them unleash all of the shit coins out there. Let them unleash the floodgates. And on that front, Bitcoin will prove itself to be the best. I mean, I joked a while ago when the SEC approved the ETF that when they approved the ETH ETF, that is now Gary Gensler going to approve all the shitcoin ETFs and just open the floodgates and wreck the citizenry out here. And I'm like, game on, let's go. Like, this sounds fun. Bitcoin's going to win. And, as much as what we do is try to protect people from wrecking themselves and just going into Bitcoin, people want to gamble and you play stupid games, you win stupid prizes. And so I think they're going to learn. But one of the biggest things that did come out of that space is the fact that Eric Trump is a huge Michael Saylor fan. So maybe they're still in their learning curve, but at least there's a lot of good signal out there. So hopefully, like I've said again in the past all the time on this show, that now when you get into Bitcoin, your education is accelerated because there is so much good signal. There is a lot of good content out there to get people to the pro Bitcoin stance and hopefully get to become a Bitcoin maxi. But yeah, man, I'm not a fan of stable coins and I'm here for Bitcoin. I'm not here to perpetuate the dollar, but yeah, they're going through their learning paces here. But eventually, once the Trumps become Bitcoin maxis, they're going to become the most toxic maxis. So I am here for it.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, there is a learning curve. I mean, I don't want to say that as an excuse, but I will say based on the two-party system and the two choices, I think it's very clear if you use a little bit of common sense. Anyways, I do want to give a shout out to the 986 of you guys watching live between YouTube and X, and of course the 100 or so of you guys watching live on Rumble, 20 of you guys watching live on Zap.stream. If you guys are enjoying the show so far, make sure to smash the like button. Really helps the algos, or zap us some sats. That would be nice too. Anyways, guys, stay tuned. We have a lot of content loaded for you guys. Let's hit the news. Here we go.
Special shout out to our sponsor, Compass Mining. They make Bitcoin mining accessible to everyone, from beginners to experienced investors. Their turnkey miners gets you online and hashing within 48 hours, making it easier than ever to start your mining journey. Plus, with their active marketplace, you can resell your miner at any time, adding flexibility and value to your investment. Visit their website to access a wealth of resources, learning everything you need to know about Bitcoin mining. Take your first step into the world of Bitcoin mining with confidence. Discover more at compassmining.io. Again, compassmining.io, and see how Compass Mining can power your success. I want to give a shout out to our sponsor, Foundation. It's self-custody done right. They built a premium grade hardware wallet called Passport right here in the US, and it integrates seamlessly with their free app called Envoy. Passport is fully open source and verifiable. It's the most intuitive Bitcoin wallet designed with a UX reminiscent of a classic feature phone, so you'll know how to navigate it and use it the moment you pick it up. It's also air-gapped, meaning Bitcoin stays offline, never touching an internet connection. It's Bitcoin only, open source verifiable, air-gap security model, gorgeous design craft, premium grade materials. Get your Bitcoin off exchanges and into your own hands in just a few minutes with Passport at foundation.xyz/simply. Get peace of mind for your piece of Bitcoin.
Everybody, I made it incredibly easy for you guys. You can scan the QR code on your screen right now. It'll take you directly to the Foundation Devices website, where you can use promo code SIMPLY to get a discount. Get yourself, not your keys, not your cheese, get yourself a hardware wallet. Of course, we recommend our sponsor, Passport by Foundation Devices. Completely open source, Bitcoin only hardware wallet. Anyways, I do want to continue the conversation. We were talking about the Trumps earlier. Mcshane, you did want to bring up a quick note on Eric Trump.
Yeah, I think a lot of Bitcoiners, I was just reading through the chat, just kind of throw up arms like, this is the way it is. No, we're in Eric's ear, trying to re-steer this ship that's kind of gone awry. I'm working with him. Other Bitcoiners are working with him. He does claim to be best friends with Saylor, so I'm sure Saylor is working on him as well. That's not an endorsement. I wouldn't go out and necessarily vote for these people just because of that. But there's hope. We don't have to be all pessimistic about both parties. I think everyone comes around eventually, and we're going to see that bright orange future that we've been looking forward to.
Absolutely, 100% agree. I think everyone has to pay their price of tuition, and just keep in mind with Saylor and with Trump and Trump's family, they're going through they're paying their price of tuition and paying their dues, but they're public figures. But I would just ask you guys, do you remember the first year that you were in Bitcoin? I've been doing this for quite a long time. 99% of Bitcoiners that I've met have all gone through a shitcoin phase. This is the fact. I've seen it happen over and over and over again. And then it's only by burning their finger on the metaphorical stove is that when they come to the realization that, Bitcoin is different, Bitcoin is king, right? So I'm not trying to make excuses, but I'm also trying to be a realist. These aren't godlike figures. These aren't, these are human beings after all. And it's going to help a lot if Trump gets elected, and he knows that a lot of that support, either from the donor base or from the voter base, came from the community. That's going to give him more of an incentive to pay attention to what's going on. That's my 2 cents on the matter. But anyways, I do want to pivot the conversation a little bit on 2 really, really bullish things. I believe Opti talked about this yesterday. If you want to know, if you want to know why the legacy media went absolutely bonkers, and when the IMF also got very upset as to why El Salvador made Bitcoin legal tender, even though if you take a look at the GDP of El Salvador, which is only 32 billion, to put that in perspective, Elon Musk's net worth is like 250 billion, right? So El Salvador's GDP is only 32 billion. So it's a small country. It's a developing country. As a Hispanic myself, someone comes originally from Venezuela, I'm looking at El Salvador and I see inspiration. I see hope, right? But the reason that the media was so hell-bent on attacking them, the reason that the IMF was so hell-bent on attacking them, is because all of a sudden, if these developing countries have an alternative to the IMF loans, it starts to become very difficult to control them. And I think that's fundamentally what it boils down to. Nayib Bukele wrote a very famous piece for Bitcoin Magazine. It was called "Don't Drink the Elite's Kool-Aid." In that article, he made the case that their most important weapon was their control on the truth, right? And that they're willing to do everything to keep that control. And if you connect the dots with the Hillary Clinton cold opening, kind of explains a lot of things, right? I think that if you control money, if you have this unique ability which governments have to create money for free that everyone else has to work for, that comes with a tremendous amount of influence and power. And, you know, obviously the powers that be don't want to let that go. So I found this inspirational. Nayib Bukele posted financial independence announcement on Independence Day. And not to mention the fact, Mcshane was talking about Caitlin Long's bank, how it is a fully reserve bank and it was denied a federal banking charter. One of the things that El Salvador did was that they made their Bitcoin reserves public. And that's in stark contrast with how gold reserves are run. We haven't seen a video or a picture of the United States gold reserves since the 1970s. We have to take the United States government's word for it. El Salvador said, you know what? We're going to make our reserves public. And when they do that, they make it very difficult for any politician to skim a little bit off the top. And if you compare that with how other countries treat their gold reserves, it's in stark contrast. One is of transparency. One is of accountability, and one is of, trust me, bro, we're going to do the right thing, right? And the whole ethos of Bitcoin is don't trust, verify. Now, what makes me really bullish, and this is what I want to focus on today's episode, is it seems like El Salvador isn't the only country that is moving along with this Bitcoin strategy. We've been talking a lot about the Kingdom of Bhutan. The Kingdom of Bhutan is a very small country in the Himalayas, that has a tremendous amount of hydroelectric power capability. Because it has such a small population, but because it has so much hydroelectric power capability, it has a lot of excess energy. And Bitcoin miners love that because excess energy means that it's cheap. Excess energy means that it's not being used. So that's where Bitcoin miners come in and they become the buyer of last resort. And this is another kind of follow-up article to the Kingdom of Bhutan, something that we've been covering over the last couple of months. First piece of news was that BitDeer, a publicly traded Bitcoin mining company in the United States, actually partnered with the small kingdom to increase their mining capability from, I believe it was 100. I'm going to butcher the electricity thing, so I don't want to say that. But anyways, they increased their mining capability from 100. Here we go. Here it is. I don't want to butcher this. Here we go. So they increased their mining capability from 100 megawatts to 600 megawatts, meaning they added 500 megawatts of mining capability, despite the halving going around the corner. And that's an indication of how they feel about the future price appreciation, because they wouldn't make that type of investment without feeling optimistic about Bitcoin's future. So here's an article dropped by our friends over at Bitcoin Magazine, written by our boy Nicholas Hoffman, and the headline is "Bhutan's Bitcoin holding revealed. Kingdom owns $780 million in BTC from mining." It goes on to say South Asian country Bhutan, a Buddhist kingdom on the Himalayas eastern edge, has been revealed as a major Bitcoin holder, owning 13,011 BTC, around $780 million, according to a report by Arkham Intelligence. The public data company identified Bhutan's Bitcoin address, marking the first time this information has been shared publicly. Bhutan is the fourth largest government with Bitcoin holdings on our platform, with over $700 million in BTC. Unlike most governments, Bhutan's BTC does not come from law enforcement asset seizures, but from Bitcoin mining operations, which has ramped up dramatically since early 2023. They have satellite photos here. It goes on to say, Bhutan's Bitcoin mining activities are conducted by the kingdom's investment arm, Duck Holdings. According to Arkham, the country has constructed mining facilities at multiple sites, with the largest on the grounds of the defunct Education City project. Arkham further noted, quote, we were able to corroborate the timeline of on-chain mining activity with the time-lapse satellite imagery of facility construction. That is so freaking cool, by the way. In May 2023, Bitdeer partnered with Druck Holding and Investments to develop the 100% carbon-free Bitcoin mining operation in Bhutan. I mean, like, this is awesome. This is so cool. The way that they were able to do this research and see the mining facilities built out. And another thing, Bhutan has been quite humble about this, and I believe it has to do with the press's reaction to the industry as a whole. They've been keeping this under wraps. They haven't really been saying anything. This has been third parties doing research into Bhutan, but it isn't Bhutan advertising that, hey, we're mining Bitcoin. And I just got to say, this is in stark contrast to what Western countries are doing, not only in the United States, not Texas. Texas is great. But let's say the overall federal regulatory environment, let's say they haven't been, the friendliest towards the industry. But if you take a look at Norway banned Bitcoin mining, and the price of electricity for residents went up like 20 or 30%, right? So I'm really bullish on developing countries adopting Bitcoin. And we're seeing that. And it's not only El Salvador that has been quite vocal about it, but it's also been these very small countries in Asia that I would say most people, if you tell them where's Bhutan on the map, they would not be able to tell you they've been mining Bitcoin. I think this is a trend that's going to continue. I'm very bullish on Bitcoin mining and Bitcoin adoption in developing countries in South America and in Southeast Asia. And I suspect that trend will continue. Anyways, I'm going to pass it on to Mcshane. Mcshane, what are your thoughts on this? It's not surprising at all, man. Like, honestly, if you understand Bitcoin's incentives, you understand that this has always been inevitable.
Yeah, it takes just a few people and a few touch points to kick off initiatives like this. Just to go back, I mean, following up on El Salvador, it's amazing to see kind of on the nation state level, the prosperity that a nation can accrue and the changes that it makes to its sort of livelihood, just like we all have had, Bitcoin affect us personally and sort of change the way we live. In the beginning, Bukele ran on infrastructure and security. And I think what you're going to see over the next year is an announcement to help boost that GDP, which is going to take the form of goods and services produced in El Salvador that are free of the poisons that our corporations have invaded all of the global South with. You're going to see corner stores with blue and gold branded, toothpaste free of toxins, everything, just anything to bring that economy back home. And you'll see this country begin to behave more and more like a truly self-sovereign nation that won't need to be dependent on IMF loans, which is the best we can hope for. And this is El Salvador has its faults, Bukele as well, but there are big rays of hope there. And I think it's going to be a positive example for countries around the world.
100%. I 100% agree with that outlook. Opti, what's your take on this? I mean, we've been covering this for quite a while, man. It's not surprising at this point. Opti?
Yeah, no, I mean, I think there's 2 points to me that are the most interesting. One, kind of jumping off what Mcshane was saying, is once you get off those touch points and you fully dive into the Bitcoin space, like there's no going back. And so you just love to see that the Kingdom of Bhutan, again, another relatively unknown country, just getting put on the map because of their Bitcoin strategy plays. And let's not forget that we wouldn't have even known that Bhutan was mining Bitcoin if they didn't get caught up in a bankruptcy and it got exposed. So like they probably still would have been mining secretly. And so that really makes you think of what other nations are out there there doing something similar with other corporations, or at least trying to keep it hush hush, and individuals doing something very similar. And so to me, that's one of the most interesting aspects about the Bhutan news, is that they're just doubling down. They expanded their mining supply, and now they're just continuously stacking and mining Bitcoin. So you just love to see it. But the second point is the idea that there's only 2 countries in the world that have gotten their Bitcoin ethically, and that is El Salvador and the Kingdom of Bhutan. El Salvador obviously buying Bitcoin, 1 Bitcoin a day for, I forget how long it's been now, a year or so. And then, of course, going on to a Bitcoin reserve strategy playbook. And then the Kingdom of Bhutan by mining their Bitcoin. Every other government that currently holds Bitcoin is because they took it from theft. They stole it from their citizens. And this is where we are right now. And so I think it really reminds me of that Satoshi quote, and I always butcher it, but as an honest actor, it pays more to just follow the rules of Bitcoin, to stack Bitcoin, to mine Bitcoin. And only time's going to show whether these countries are correct and whether they're going to make it and whether it's going to actually improve their nations and their economies. And so you just love to see it. Like, the signal has gotten out there, and now everyone is waking up to the idea that not only is Bitcoin a mature asset and that you need some, but it's a viable solution to the problems that we all face, which is there's nothing else to store your value in. Yes, you can store your value in gold, the other hard money out there. Yes, it just hit all-time high, but it's basically been going sideways for what? I don't know, like 50 years or something like that. And so gold, for all intents and purposes, is a stable coin at this point. It's just going sideways. It's holding your value. Treasuries are looking like they're going up in smoke, and more people are moving away from treasuries, especially when you talk about all the stuff going on in the BRICS nations. And then no one in their right mind is trying to save in dollars if they understand what's going on. And so the only solution here, again, all roads lead to Bitcoin. There is no alternative. You need to hold some Bitcoin. You have to hold some Bitcoin if you want to survive what's coming in the future. And it's not like some dystopian future thing. It's just math. The system that we are a part of needs to inject more fiat into the system to keep it going. And that means everyone else is getting poorer that's holding dollars. And so everyone is looking for a solution. And yes, of course, it's going to start with these tiny countries at first because they don't have as much to lose, I would say, than the US or other first world Western countries. But I think soon enough, again, going back to the Titanic meme that I use all the time, it takes a lot more to turn these countries around and make them pivot than it does a small, nimble country. And so you just love to see that El Salvador and the Kingdom of Bhutan are being nimble on their feet, and they are stacking Bitcoin. They are trying to save in Bitcoin. And I think in the future, these are going to be very important historical data points to show that these were the smartest countries, the people that were in power at this time. Others should follow suit. And then, we go back to the whole election stuff in the US, and we have one side fighting us and one side going full shitcoin. So it's just interesting times all around in regards to Bitcoin adoption. But all roads lead to Bitcoin. So it's good to see. And I think in 2025, we're going to see even more interesting news stories come out in the same regard.
100%, 100%. All right, everybody, stay tuned. There's 1,280 of you guys watching live just between YouTube and X, and a couple hundred of you guys watching live between Rumble and Zapstream. If you guys are enjoying the show, make sure to share the show. Smash the like button. Really, really helps with the algos. Stay tuned because we're going to talk to Mcshane about the Bitcoin conference, about Nostr. We're going to talk about him being unplugged from the matrix, so to speak, and living off grid a little bit. So I'm really excited to explore this conversation. So stay tuned. We're gonna hit the culture. Here we go. All right, everybody. I do want to give a shout out to our sponsor, the Orange Pill app. Stack friends who stack sats. Join the 12,233 Bitcoiners that are currently on the app. The Orange Pill app is the Bitcoin social layer. So if you're on the go, if you're traveling, you're going to a new city, perhaps you're in a city for a Bitcoin conference, and perhaps the Bitcoin conference is only 2 or 3 days, but you're there for a week, the Orange Pill app is for you. It's the #1 resource for Bitcoin-only events it allows you to DM Bitcoiners that are around you. So it tells you geographically the Bitcoiners that are around you, and it will give you the ability to send them a message directly. It's also one of the best ways to reach me. If you want to contact me, I don't really answer Twitter or emails these days. You could contact me via the Orange Pill app. So to get started, scan the QR code on your screen or check the link in the video description. Man, I'm so excited to have Mcshane on the show. First, I do want to give him a little bit of credit, bro, because the Bitcoin conference, dude, you guys absolutely freaking crushed it. It was incredible. Trump's speech was historic. RFK's speech was historic. I definitely believe in my heart that it was a milestone in Bitcoin's history. And I know a lot of people were just like, dude, RFK's speech was better than Trump's speech. And I'm like, dude, RFK is independent. Trump is running from a mainstream political party. It's a little bit different. But I think you guys did a fabulous job on that. And I know that you guys are not stopping, and you guys have future plans in regards to more conferences and more programming upcoming. So very, very excited for that.
Yeah, it's thanks, man. It's getting wild out there. We're looking at 4 conferences in the upcoming year. You know, we're looking at Las Vegas. We've got Abu Dhabi down the line in December. We've got, of course, Bitcoin 2025 in Vegas and Amsterdam. Did I already mention Vegas? Yeah, we're going to Amsterdam here in a couple of weeks. I'm pretty excited for that. And then we'll be back in Hong Kong and Asia, man. So we're just kind of doing what we can to support Bitcoin adoption globally and just set roots and plant seeds wherever we can.
Absolutely. And I think the conference really moved what I experience as a Bitcoin content creator is something that I call the Bitcoin echo chamber, which is Bitcoiners create content for other Bitcoiners. How you move the envelope is getting people that are popular in the mainstream to talk about Bitcoin. One of the things that went most viral, and it was from the Bitcoin conference, and it was a comedian, and he was basically identifying the fact that like most of the world's problems, you can literally you can identify the root cause, and the root cause of that is the government's ability to create money for free. It's fiat money. And I forget what his name is, Opti. I don't know if you can remember off the top of your head. It was Dave Smith, exactly. Very famous comedian. And he was on a panel with, I believe, American Hodl was on that panel as well. Is that correct, Mcshane?
I don't think American Hodl was on that one. I'm sorry, I can't recall who else was on the panel. But yeah, Dave Smith has been really, really big into this sort of libertarian narrative and really critical of, the government at present. And really friendly to Bitcoin, which we love to see. But I would like to point out it's super fun. Like I have a really, really fun job, which is trying to bring new people into Bitcoin. I know people, come to a conference and they want to see just bright orange across all stages and just tried and true maxis. And there is definitely a place for that. And that's a beautiful thing. But the way that we, as you said, insert Bitcoin into more and more of the daily lives of people is taking some risks, bringing in new people and educating them through their participation in these events and discussions, and getting them to meet, all the folks that are, in the comments showing up to these events, and just those touch points, man. That's what it's all about. So 100%. We're going to see, this is going to be really interesting to go to Abu Dhabi and the MENA region, I think, because this is like the gold bug capital of the world, and we've got a lot of work to do there. We've got a lot of people to convert there, and Bitcoin is, halal. It's the most Islamic form of money, and we have a mission to prove that to these people and get them to experiment with Bitcoin and try it.
100%. And just to specify, it was Mark Moss and Guy Swan that was on that panel with Dave Smith, and it's incredibly important with what you're saying, Mcshane, because it's like when you bring in Russell Brand, when you bring in these creators that got famous not through Bitcoin, but they just got famous through the mainstream, when they tell their audience, when they turn to the audience and they say, Bitcoin fixes a lot of these things, it carries a lot more weight, right? That's how you break the Bitcoin echo chamber. I think you guys were incredibly successful at that. At this year's conference. with getting comedians like Dave Smith, getting people like Russell Brand, getting people like RFK, getting people like Trump, and then you guys are expanding it, right? You guys are expanding to the Middle East as well. And what I'm most bullish about is because it's coming up, it's right around the corner, is Bitcoin Amsterdam. By the way, you can use promo code Mcshane to get 10% off your tickets. Could you tell us a little bit about what you guys have? Maybe some exclusive intel for the Simply Bitcoin audience.
Some exclusive intel. I think first off, I'm very, very excited. This is going to be the coolest production and Bitcoin main stage y'all have ever seen. Guaranteed. It's going to be absolutely insane. I don't know if people saw what we did last year in Amsterdam. It's 2 or 3 times as epic. And I can't wait to give these Bitcoiners, panelists, these fireside chats and keynotes, the love and the production quality that they deserve, because they're on the world stage now. And, we have to scale to suit them, because they're absolute superstars coming out. And I think it's a really important event for Europe. I mean, we just see increasingly hostile Bitcoin policy and frankly freedom policies that are gunning to take away your self-sovereignty and take away freedom of speech across countries in Europe. And we have to have a response to that. It's very important to be there and to send our message and to make new friends and make new Bitcoiners out of these people.
100%. I think it's incredibly important that you have to plant the flag. And you have to make your voice heard 100%. You can't just give up on a specific continent, specifically and I'll be honest, like we're complaining about the U.S., but like Europe has gone like right behind China, like straight up. So I'll even say something. I'll say I don't think if people were fully informed and were fully aware, I don't think they would go along with it. I think governments are taking advantage of the fact that people are not fully informed on fiat and fully informed on Bitcoin. And that's how they're kind of sneaking in these dystopian, totalitarian regulations. Because I think if they fully understood, they wouldn't go along with it. That's my 2 cents on the matter. And I do want to ask Opti, have Sally dancing in front of me and it's distracting. I do want to ask Opti, Opti, you have dated Christine Lagarde in the past. What did you do to her for her to feel so vengeful that she's cracking down in Europe?
Well, I pulled the card that hurts women the most, and it's when you don't commit to them. So I didn't fully commit. I tried. I did the best I could. I wore a few silk scarves, but I just wouldn't give her commitment, and that's why she's so spurned out there. But yeah, it is what it is. My dating life is not what's on blast here, Nico. So let's ignore that. But I do want to mention one thing in regards to what Mcshane was saying before we go into some of these other topics and wrap up today's show. Nico and I were sitting at, actually we were texting back and forth while we were watching the DNC, and the production was incredible at the conference. It was like a Hollywood production. And I think a week or so before, there was a libertarian conference, and we were mentioning Simply Bitcoin could have done a better job at doing the stream. And then we were kind of also joking about that the RNC production just wasn't up to par with the DNC production. And that's I think people underestimate how important it is to have really good production at these events. So it is an experience. And so again, kudos to you, Mcshane. And I'm glad that you guys are seeing the same things we're seeing. And we got to make sure that this is an experience. So, I can't wait to see what the live streaming stuff looks like. I'm not going to be in Amsterdam. Nico won't let me go to Amsterdam, but maybe next time. Nico, I did see you pulled up Vegas, so you want to touch on that real quick?
Yeah, absolutely. So there's a couple conferences coming up for BTC Inc. Of course, there is Amsterdam that's coming up in October. There is Abu Dhabi that's coming up in December, I believe. and there is the Bitcoin 2025 conference that is happening at the Venetian in Las Vegas, May 27th to the 29th. My birthday, no, I don't want to dox my birthday, but let's just say it's around that time. So it's around that time. I didn't give you the exact date, but could you tell us a little bit about why you guys? So you guys were in Miami, which was awesome because I didn't have to get on a plane. And you guys were doing the conference in my hometown, and it was kind of surreal, like seeing the Bitcoin conference literally right where I grew up. And you guys decided to pivot to Nashville, which was incredible. Great venue, great attendance. I would say Bitcoin 2021 and Bitcoin 2024. I would say Bitcoin 2024 went up that, which is like, I don't know how that's possible, because 2021 was historic in my books.
Wait! I thought the meme was that the price crashes on the conferences. What's going on here?
Dude, price is noise. But the point is, though, is that from a milestone aspect and from breaking the Bitcoin echo chamber, it was huge. I think what you guys accomplished at 2024, but you guys have Bitcoin 2025 coming up. If Bitcoin continues its price cycles, it should be the year of the bull market. So everyone should be very, very hyped. And you guys decided to move it from Nashville to Las Vegas. So it changed a little bit from staying in Miami. I think you guys stayed in Miami a couple of years to changing from Nashville to Las Vegas. What was the motivations behind that? And what can you tell us? What do you have in store for Bitcoin 2025, Mcshane?
Look, we got to take this show on the road. We need to plant seeds all over the world, and that's kind of our mission here. I can tell you, Vegas is going to be the world's largest Bitcoin conference. We're going to break our 3 previous records for holding that, and I'm excited to go to a completely new region and new city for me, and kind of embrace the irony of Bitcoin as this, speculative, gambler's asset, and just really lean into it and onboard new people, man. Get them excited about Bitcoin. Show them the prosperity that Bitcoiners have enjoyed the past few cycles, and get them hyped.
Could you tell us anything? Could you give us a little sneak peek about Bitcoin 2025 in Vegas? By the way, promo code Mcshane is available if you guys want 20.
All caps.
And by the way, it's early bird tickets, so you'll be getting a very special deal on the Vegas tickets. Could you tell us, Mcshane? Could you drop us a little nugget?
Oh, what can I drop you? How do we outdo ourselves? Look, I've got 2 events until then, so I'm not.
Right.
Fair enough.
Fair enough.
But,
So let's
look. Our track record speaks for itself. I think this is already tracking to be the world's biggest Bitcoin conference. Those early bird tickets are key. I mean, go ahead and get some for your friends and family. It's not going to be one you're going to want to miss. We are on the level where there's no one on earth that we can't get in touch with and have a conversation about coming to speak at these conferences. That is kind of our mission right now. It's just like, who are the most important people that need to get on board to help protect your rights, not only here at home in the United States, and not just from a political perspective, but from a cultural perspective as well. So I think you're going to see bigger speakers. I think you're going to see, amazing production, and it's just a good time, man. It's not even just our conferences. Like, have you ever been to a Bitcoin conference that you're like, wow, that was not a good time? No, these are people who think like you. We're living our day-to-day lives, just having these conversations about Bitcoin. A lot of people in their heads, if you're out in a rural area or, a small town, there's not many Bitcoiners, maybe your family doesn't get it. It's very important to get out and kind of network and spend time with Bitcoiners in real life. And it's very affirming. It really makes you feel that, I'm not wrong. I'm not crazy. This is really not only the future, but the present. And you can absolutely opt out with Bitcoin. And these are the events that make it happen. I would also add, these are the best places to get jobs in the Bitcoin, if you want to call it an industry, in Bitcoin in the world. I can't even name how many great companies in the space have been started at our events, or how easy it is to meet people and start a project on the ground at the event. So I think if you're looking to exit a fiat career, this is the best quote unquote job fair in the world for that.
I completely agree. I completely agree.
On that point, Nico and I didn't meet at Bitcoin Miami, but Nico literally came to me and was like, "Yo, join Simply Bitcoin," and I'm like,
at Bitcoin Miami. No, 100%. If you're trying to get a job in the industry, this is where you network. This is how you meet the right people. Before we move on, Mcshane, I do want to highlight this because I think this is the first. You guys are doing a Bitcoin conference in the Middle East, specifically in the United Arab Emirates in Abu Dhabi, December 9th and 10th. So it is this year. What motivated you guys to do that? You were mentioning earlier about them being huge gold bugs. Do you think that they can transition to seeing Bitcoin as the new gold?
That's my personal goal, is to get as many people on stage destroying gold bugs as possible, and and to get them to allocate something of their crazy Arabian royalty net worth into Bitcoin. But along with that, this is a very exciting event because this is one day after the F1 race. We're working on a partnership with them. One of the most viewed, spectator events in the world. There's going to be a number of really highly influential global leaders and leaders from North Africa and in the Middle East there. We're talking heads of state. We're talking some of the wealthiest individuals and families and royalty in the world. And I think it's going to make quite the statement, and it's long overdue. To my knowledge, there hasn't been a really large Bitcoin only conference there. There a lot of crypto. There's a lot of extended bloated bureaucracy in the region. And I think our message just will speak truth to power in that area in a way that's very refreshing for people who live there and people who are looking for an alternative way to live.
Absolutely. Spreading the Satoshi gospel. Guys, by the way, you can use promo code Mcshane. Again, Mcshane, to get 10% off any of these conferences. Highly recommend the Bitcoin 2025 and, of course, Amsterdam that's coming up. And if you live in the Middle East, Abu Dhabi, the UAE is a beautiful country. You've never been there before. It's highly developed, very, very nice. Dubai, Abu Dhabi, very, very nice cities, and definitely worth the journey of the pilgrimage. Anyways, I do want to pivot the conversation. I want to take advantage of the last couple minutes of the show. Mcshane, you were talking about earlier, before we went on air, and you actually mentioned it when you were talking about the conferences, it's this idea of unplugging, right? This idea of, I think 2024 has been this year of course, Nostr taking off, AI taking off, the Twitter algos being highly manipulative and psychological and getting into your feels and just getting you like kind of in the fold. But you're talking about like this idea of unplugging. You're talking about this idea of just like, I've achieved Bitcoin Zen. I know my Bitcoin's in cold storage. I'm okay. I know my future generations are okay. My life is on track. I don't really have to be on social media. I don't really have to be on the web. So could you talk a little bit about that? Because I think people are getting their dopamine receptors completely hijacked by these very, very sophisticated algorithms.
Yeah, I think a lot of people, we spend all day evangelizing for Bitcoin and pushing people to hold it in self-custody, but not too much conversation around what do you actually do with your Bitcoin and your time. Several cycles in, I think a lot of people will relate to this. You start, feeling pretty comfortable. Life is pretty easy. You're playing life on cheat mode by holding Bitcoin, and you need to find new challenges and ways to push yourself. And I think one of them is breaking up with these basically drugs that are being served to you all day through your food and through the endlessly entertaining algorithms, the centralized platforms. And I found myself at one point really almost living in service of these, got to catch the next news quick, got to make a tweet about this, got to produce more content. And I didn't feel good in my body, didn't feel good in my mind. Got super into Nostr, where it was a lot more value for value and not virtue for value. People sending Bitcoin around on the web, and they really appreciate it when you're your authentic self. And I think the less time you spend on these sort of centralized platforms that are serving you up likes all day, the better you're going to feel in your body. I think that's obvious, intuitive to a lot of us, but actually doing it is really hard. Removing those apps from your phone, setting down the phone, spending more and more time outside, soaking up the sun all day is, I think, just an infinitely better way to spend your time that is that's on par with a Bitcoin lifestyle. Like, that is a worthy way to spend your time and your energy and your Bitcoin. Everyone has to make those decisions for themselves. There's a lot of nuances, but I'm kind of all in on that. I'm trying to move my life in a direction that is, completely free of these addictions that have really snuck up on us as a society.
100%. They're digital drugs. Like, really, like I really see it as that. Like, they're able to hijack your receptors in your brain with these algorithms, and before you know it, you spend a ridiculous amount of time on these apps when there's there's sunshine outside, there's grass to touch, there's experiences to be had, right? So anyways, we are getting to the top of the show. Mcshane, I do want to give you the floor. If you have any final messages for the 1,442 people that are watching us live between YouTube and X, and then of course the couple hundred that are watching us between Nostr and Rumble, what would those final words be?
I would encourage all of you, if you haven't already, to give Nostr a shot. If you tried it, a year and a half ago, come back and see where we are now. And maybe even tune into this stream on Zap.stream next time and give it a watch. It's amazing. You don't give up any user data using most of these clients, none at all. Only the information you choose to serve up. You can operate anonymously. It's a free and open source protocol, and you're going to find yourself not being served basically engagement drugs all day. You're going to have the freedom of algorithmic choice. We've got a long way to go to make these platforms as easy and intuitive as the other centralized ones with mega, inflation funding. But we're getting there, man. They're extremely powerful, and it's extremely fun to be in basically a niche new community. It's like finding Bitcoin in like 2010.
I 100% agree with that, because I recently went through a deplatforming experience, and it wasn't until then that I realized the importance of Nostr. Protocols over platforms, 100% agree. And then going down the Nostr rabbit hole and figuring out how to properly post content there. And by the way, shout out to everyone that's helped. Walker America, the CEO of Primal. I'm going to butcher your name, bro. I'm sorry. Kieran, and the rest of you guys that have helped me through this kind of Nico 2016 Bitcoin newbie question experience. I appreciate you all. And we're going to continue putting all of our content on there, because I really, really believe in the future of the protocol. So Alex, Mcshane, thank you so much for joining us on Simply Bitcoin Live today. Really appreciate it. Guys, today was September 17, 2024. This was Simply Bitcoin Live. I'm your host, Nico. This is my legendary co-host, Optimus Fields, and our guest for today, Alex Mcshane, Director of Programming for BTC Inc. and the Bitcoin Conference. Love you all. If you guys enjoyed the show, make sure to smash the like button, consider subscribing, and share this content. That's how we get the message out there. Tomorrow, we'll be live again from the, I'm going to butcher this if I don't read this, the Real World Unconfiscatable Suite here in Las Vegas, Nevada with Tone Vase. So stay tuned for that episode. Until then, love you all. Go touch some grass, and we'll see you on the next one.
To you by BitcoinWell.com, a Bitcoin-only platform on a mission to enable financial independence.